The following is a live sports event featuring the Abernathy Antelopes or Ladylopes and is under the direction of AA Sports Properties in partnership with Abernathy ISD. This broadcast cannot be reproduced or retransmitted without the written consent of AA Sports Properties. Tonight's broadcast is made possible by the support of our generous sponsors: MC Master Roofing and Construction, South Plains Auto Ranch, First State Bank, Nutrient Ag Solutions, Abernathy First Baptist Church, Storm Guard, Clark Riley Insurance, Able Funeral Home and Flower Shop, Plains Land Bank, JC Refrigeration, Spradlin Spray Service, Vista Bank, Lambert Insurance, The Junkin Farmers Market, Ty Horsford Realtor, and DB Media. Buckle up and enjoy all of the exciting action with the Abernathy Antelopes and Ladylopes.
To Rolando. This time he takes it himself untouched into the end zone. Rolando Martinez from 1 yard out. And the Abernathy Antelope strike first. Comes McKaylen Marshall off the dribble. Mid-range jumper. Marshall gives Abernathy the lead. Now he hands it to Rolando. Burst of speed up the middle. Dagger! Touchdown! Superman! Now, second, stolen away in the corner. Flores. It's good! Flores the steal! And the three-pointer! As time runs out. Flag comes in. The punt is blocked. And it's going to be an Antelope touchdown! Barring the penalty. As it's Cash Garcia who blocked it, scooped it, and scored it. Let's
And good evening, Abernathy, Texas. Good evening, fans of the Abernathy Antelopes and Ladylopes. Welcome inside Outside the Box here, week 11, episode 11, November 6th. Glad you're with us. Ty Horsford alongside Chance Rocha. Hopefully you survived Election Day, and we're going to roll on with another Wednesday night edition of Outside the Box, Chance. And another week and another win for the good guys as the Abernathy Antelopes. It wasn't as overwhelming. It maybe might not have been as flashy, but the Antelopes do get the job done. 20-0, third consecutive shutout for the Abernathy Antelope defense. A defensive performance that was led by Orion Hillis, 8 tackles to lead the team. Dyson Garcia, a big night defensively, 4 tackles for loss. You had 3 tackles behind the line by Luke Maldonado, a big night for him. Hillis and Jake Harkey both recover fumbles. Martinez got a pick in the ball game. You win the turnover battle, Chance, 3-0.
In key moments, too.
And in key moments to stall out promising drives for Olton. And really, I think that ultimately was kind of the difference in the ball game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, Jake gets the strip right there on the goal line. Hillis gets the one right there in midfield, and then Hillis was actually the one that tipped the ball, that batted the ball that Rolando made a great play on to get that interception, and that really kind of ended the night for any hope that Olton had, and I think it was just we didn't get the flashiness from Rolando. We got a good game from him. They were keen on him all night, Ty.
They were.
And credit to Olton's defense. They knew that he was kind of the guy to stop.
It made us do something different, and we still were able to find the end zone a few times.
Yeah. They were stingy, but we managed to get those 3 scoring plays off a great game by Wiley. You ask him to throw the ball 30 times. That's the most he's thrown in a game all season. And he has some amazing throws. And, the one that was probably your favorite was that hook and ladder
I loved it.
From Maverick to Carson Curry, and it kind of sealed the deal there in the fourth quarter. But it was just one of those things to where the coaching saw, okay, we're going to have to kind of have a shift. We're not going to get away from the run, but we're going to have to shift in one area. And credit to them for doing a good job, and credit to the boys hanging in there and going with the game plan. It was a great game by the Lopes for sure.
And, I know we've talked about it, Chance. I think a key to your success this year has been your offensive play calling and the variations you've had there. And Coach Bloskus has done an incredible job. And I think that hook and ladder is just the latest example of when you really needed something, when things were kind of stale, when things really weren't working, you were able to reach into the bag of tricks and kind of pull out the dagger, if you will. Lopes hold Olton to just 216 yards of total offense, and only 69 yards of that on the ground, Chance. And so Abernathy continues to defend the run well. That's going to be important coming up Friday night,
Sure.
and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. You held Olton to around 50 yards of total offense in the first half of the ball game, as most of those 216 came in the second half. But you talk about the individual performances. Wiley, 17 of 30, 179 in the 3 touchdowns. And we talk about Rolando, Chance, not having one of his better games rushing the ball. Well, he still carries it 23 times for 128 yards. And then seemed like we utilized Russum a lot more. Aaron Russum, a big night for the Antelopes, 5 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he did, and it was one of those things to where we had a lot of not bad situations, but some missed catches, some tipped balls, some balls going through the hands or hitting receivers. And it was like, hey, Russum's catching it. Let's keep feeding him.
Yep.
And that's kind of what it came down to in certain scenarios. And so with him with those 5 catches, those were catches in key moments in the ball game for sure. And then with Rolando, he didn't have 200 yards rushing, and he didn't have any touchdowns, but he got you the carries, and he continued to run hard, and he had a couple little burst plays towards the end of the game, not the 50-yarders, but he had a couple, longer 20, 25-yarders that when we needed them, we were able to get them. But I think it's one of those things, too, where, like I said, being able to know we can win multiple ways, and that's going to be a key, for sure now moving forward, isn't playoff time, but it kind of is playoff time.
It might as well be,
coming on Friday, because it's not a win or go home, but it's a win in deciding where you're going to play and who you're going to play for sure.
You're going to have to play good ball the rest of the way if you want to continue to play. There's no doubt about that. If you're nitpicking, Chance, one thing you want to clean up, and I will say some of the penalties were a little suspect maybe. Maybe not the best officiating job I've ever seen,
sure.
but 11 penalties for 99 yards. That's way too high of a number moving forward for the Antelope, so hopefully they can clean that up just a little bit. So where does that leave District 2A, Chance? And the 4 playoff spots are decided. You've got the battle for Antelope supremacy at the top of the district. Abernathy Post, they are both 4-0 in district play. Post 9-0 on the season. The Antelopes of Abernathy at 7-2. Post, they just went to Floydada and beat the Whirlwind 73-3 on Friday night. But a big one coming up Friday. We're gonna preview that one here a little bit later on, but that will be for the outright district championship. In that 3rd and 4th slot, you've got Olton at 5-4, 2-2, and New Home at 4-5, 2-2. Again, they play each other on Friday, and the winner of that game will be the number 3 seed. Loser will be number 4. New Deal and Floydada round out the district as they kind of play in the toilet bowl of the district, if you will, on Friday night, as those two teams just playing for pride, both 0-4 in district play.
Kind of ironic, Ty, that the schedule landed that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that, you have your top 2 teams playing each other, the 3 and 4s playing each other, and then the 5 and 6. Usually it doesn't end up that way in most scenarios, and we'll kind of talk about that when we get into our region here in a minute. But, the fact that it's not win or go home, but, being the 1 seed is definitely a little bit more beneficial than being the 2 seed. Same thing with New Home and Olton. I'm sure one of them would rather be the 3 seed than be the 4 seed, just because who they're going to end up playing. So this week, kind of moving forward, I think New Home's going to beat Olton. I know you kind of feel the same way. I got them 21-16. I think that New Home could get hot and put up more points, but just kind of seeing what Olton's defense did to us, I can kind of suspect they may kind of give Newhome some fits as well. I think that, Olton will kind of get some things figured out on offense because they started to towards the end of the game, and we just came over with big plays. So I think they will put up some points against Newhome, but I think they're going to win it and be that 3-seed tie.
And I also have Newhome in a close game at home. The Leopards playing in Newhome. And I may have undershot this one on the points. We'll see. But I've got Newhome winning 14-13 over the Olton Mustangs. Again, that's for the number 3 and number 4 seeds.
And weather is going to be a factor.
It could be, absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be chilly. It may be, rainy and wet. And so that's probably going to that's going to hurt Newhome probably more than it's going to hurt Olton because they're more of the pass-happy team. But, we'll see.
Yep, absolutely. And Chance, when you look ahead just a little bit, the winner of Abernathy and Post, they go into the postseason as the number 1 seed. They get the Spearman Lynx in round 1. The loser of Abernathy and Post enters as the number 2 seed in the district, and they are going to play the West Texas Comanches in the first round of the playoffs. And then you've got the Olton Newhome winner matching up with Panhandle, while the loser will be the 4 seed out of our district, matching up with the Sunray Bobcats in the first round of the playoffs. You've also, we mentioned, Chance, have Floydada and New Deal. One of those teams has to win. Yeah. It's been a struggle for them this year. For the sake of making picks, I've got New Deal, unfortunately for them, completing a 0-5 district season. I've got the Whirlwinds, a 21-20 win over the Lions.
Yeah. I do as well. I hate to do that to the Lions, but just from what we've seen, the struggles that they've had and the injuries that they've had, I think Floydada is going to go in there and win that one 24-16. And so it's been a long while since they probably hadn't won a district ball game, so that'll kind of be an eye-opener to know that, to see, it is hard to compete year in and year out, and especially when you're picked, pretty high. But, it's one of those things to where that's why you line up and you play the games, and a key injury can kind of hurt any team at any moment. And so that, luckily to us, that we've been able to battle through some of those injuries and continue to stay strong throughout the season, because I know Floydada and New Deal, they may not have competed for the 1 or 2 spot, but if they were healthy, they probably would have been a lot more competitive throughout the season.
Yep, absolutely. And Chance, I know we kind of get to talking in circles when we talk about kind of a regional outlook is really the districts we keep an eye on, because they're the districts we meet up with the first 3 or 4 rounds of the playoffs. But those districts 1, 2, 3, and 4, I know you and I kind of geek out over what it looks
sure.
like, and some of you are probably like, I don't care, just tell me when and where we play, and I'll be there.
Right.
But District 1 is already set. You've got Sunray 1, Panhandle 2, WT 3, and Spearman 4. Again, first round matchups with our district, which is District 2, 2A. We've kind of talked about the scenario there, Chance. And then you've got Districts 3 and 4, maybe ones that some of you out there are a little bit less familiar with.
Yeah. So District 4, I'll kind of highlight them. You're probably not familiar with them, but they have 2 of the higher-ranked teams in the state between Stanford and Holly. And what do you know? They're playing on Friday as well.
Worked out just like our district
for
did.
their district title. So they're playing for the 1 and 2 seed. Some people have Holly picked. Some people have Stanford picked. And so I think the Stanford looks like the better team on paper. They're ranked number 1 in the state. Holly's in the bottom half of the top 10, but I think they're feeling Holly may have the experience that Stanford doesn't have in that big game scenario. But in all cases, that's a 1 or 2 game. So I think once you get into playoffs, those 2 teams can match up well and probably beat just about anybody, because both of them are undefeated on the season, and they've beat some pretty good teams for sure. And then rounding out that district, Anson and Cisco. Those are your 3 and 4. Those are already decided. I think the crazy district that no one talks about, Ty, is District 3. Mm-hmm. And it's because number 1, it's a mess, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Reagan County already has the 1 seed lined up. They're 4-0. Even if they lose on Friday, they're going to be the 1 seed regardless. 2 through 4 is a muddled mess for them. Everybody's beat everybody. If Ozona wins, they're the 2 seed. Fort Sands is a 3 seed, and Cristobal is the 4 seed. If Cristobal beats Ozona, they're the 2 seed. Ozona drops to the 3 seed, and Fort Sands goes all the way to the 4 seed. So that's a big flop when you're looking. It's probably the most influential for Cristobal. They're either going to be the 2 seed and get a decent matchup, or they're going to be the 4 seed and they're going to play, a Holly or a Stanford. And so they're probably thinking their coach probably is going to have them hyped up for Friday night for sure.
For sure.
But those are teams, I think, all roads, regardless of what you look at. In our region, Post isn't getting love. Abernathy's not going to get any love. Neither is Reagan County. But that's because you have Sunray 1.
Some heavyweights at the top.
Yeah, you have Stanford 1, Sunray 3, Panhandle's at the bottom half, and then you have Holly as well. So you have 4 teams in the top 10 in our region
that are probably the favorites.
Yeah.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
They're going to be the favorites no matter how you slice the pie. But as we know, that's why we line up and play on Friday nights, because upsets are going to happen, and probably more than we expect for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And really what probably most of you are concerned about, we already mentioned it. You win on Friday, you're going to play Spearman. You lose, and you're going to play West Texas the following week. That's what it looks like for the Antelopes. I will say this. You always want to go get a gold ball.
Yep.
You always want to get a championship. Anytime you can, go do it. I will say whoever ends up the number 2 seed in our district, I'm not going to say easier, but they don't have a terrible route in the playoffs. And so you've locked up one of those top 2 seeds regardless of what happens on Friday. So we're going to have a quiz over. No, not really. But
so we're going to have the bracket. We're going to have a quiz. We're going to fill it out. Think about March Madness. That's what we're going to have.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
So I'll say this, Ty, in ending, regardless of however you slice the pie, 1 or 2 seed, all roads are either going to lead to probably playing Sunray or Panhandle again, or Stanford or Holly again.
Yep.
If they kind of run the table as everyone suspects. And so that would probably be the second or third round of playoffs. But realistically, you got to win them all from here on out and take care of business. That's kind of what it comes down to. So.
Absolutely. And so that's a look at where we've been, what the playoffs are going to look like. Again, we'll preview the post matchup here in just a little bit. Let's take our first timeout on the program. And when we come back, we'll take a quick glance around AISD. And you're going to want to stick with us. We caught up with some of our middle school folks this week for our interviews. And so stick around for that. And we'll be right back on Outside the Box. Are you looking for a new ride? Look no further than the South Plains Auto Ranch in Abernathy. We offer in-house financing and offer a wide selection of used cars. If we don't have what you need, we will help you find it. When buying a vehicle, you want local people you can trust, and that's exactly what you'll find at the South Plains Auto Ranch in Abernathy. Located on the south end of town between the West Service Road and Avenue D, we are your used car one-stop shop. Give us a call today at 298-2200. And as always, we are a proud supporter of the Antelopes and Lady Lopes.
At StormGuard, we provide experts you can count on. Sit back, relax, and let StormGuard take care of your home. If you're experiencing roof issues, let our qualified team of professionals repair or restore your roof. We work directly with your insurance company to make the process easy for you, and inspections are always free. At StormGuard, we are wishing the Lady Lopes and Lopes the best of luck this season.
And welcome back to Outside the Box. Well, Ty, let's kind of do our sub-varsity report before we get into the rest of our AISD. We always like to highlight those sub-varsity boys. They play hard on those Thursday nights. So let's start with 7th grade. We had a clean sweep across the board. 7th grade won 22-14. It was pretty dominant by the Lopes. They kind of had some big plays that went Olton's way that kept them in the game. Olton ended up having a tip pass. Maddox Waldrop almost had an interception. He tipped it. Kid runs it for a touchdown, and then they had a kick return for a touchdown. Olton did. But other than that, the Lopes kind of handled business on both sides of the ball. They were led on the ground by Drake Warner. He had touchdown runs of 25 and 90 yards. Oh, man, that 90-yard run.
90 to the house.
It was, you could tell once he got to the 15, he was like, there's still field in front of me. And so, but that was a good run right there by Drake. And then Maddox Waldrop had a good day through the air as well. He hit targets, Jody Smith, and then he had a big 70-yard touchdown pass to number 22, James Hurt. They kind of sealed the victory for the 7th grade Lopes as they continue on their winning streak. And then the 8th grade boys stayed rolling. They won 34-6. Dominant, for sure, dominant defense. They're pretty good at that. That 8th grade group, they play pretty physical. They were led on the ground by Aiden Villarreal. He had a 4-touchdown night, 5-7-15, and, of course, he had to sprinkle in that 40-yarder as he typically does. And then Cutter Johnson was slinging the ball around a little bit. He hit top targets Ralphie Barrios and Kingston Awful. Awful had the lone receiving touchdowns of 18 yards. And then JV, they got the clean sweep. They won 28-8, and they had a pretty dominant performance as well. Pretty well-rounded, and the defense stepped up big for them. So,
yep, 7th grade's going to go to Sundown this Thursday as Post, not a 7th grade team, which is a little bit surprising. That's the second time that's happened to the 7th graders this year. So they play in Sundown at 6:30 on Thursday, and then 8th grade will host Post at 5:30 on Thursday, and JV will hit the road to Post at 6 o'clock on Thursday. So go support those guys on Thursday night.
their last one.
Last one. Chance, switching gears, the Lady Lope basketball team in full gear. They got 2 regular season games under their belt, and what a start for the Abernathy Lady Lopes.
For sure.
As they opened the season on Saturday, and I went to this game and had a chance to watch them. They looked really, really good. They beat Coronado at Coronado, a 5A school, in the Lady Mustangs, 55-47. That was a game that was back and forth the first 3 quarters. Abernathy started the 4th strong, went on a 6 or 8 point run, and kind of were able to hold the Mustangs at bay. You had 33 points in the ball game from McKaylin Marshall. You had a strong defensive performance really across the board. I thought that's really what led to your success, as you had 7 steals, 3 blocks. You had big defensive performance from Aubrey Teal. Bree Shorter was in the backcourt running that press, and that's a pretty thing to watch, Chance. She did a great job. Kendall Miller, also a big defensive ball game as well, as Abernathy got the 55-47 win. And then they come home for their home opener last night, Chance, and play a really good Plainview team. A Plainview team, and I actually looked this up. In their 5A district, Plainview picked to finish 2nd in their district and be a 5A playoff team. And in a back-and-forth battle, it's the Lady Lopes again, 75-70. They knock off the 5A Lady Bulldogs. The story of that night, Chance, McKaylin Marshall, 53 points for the Tulane commit. And so what the Lady Lopes hope is going to be a special season is off to a raging start as they get wins over 5A schools in Coronado and Plainview. The road only gets tougher for them coming up. As on Saturday, I think some time still being set, but you've got the JV and varsity Lady Lopes taking on Estacado in Abernathy. And then, don't hold your breath. On Tuesday, you travel up north, and the JV and varsity girls have a 5 and 6:30 tip with Canyon Randall. And so big school after big school after big school. The Lady Lopes, though, so far are 2-0.
Yeah, and what I liked, and when we talked last week with Mikey, Coach Marshall, he just said, it's not about the W's all the time. It's about competing, and he wanted to compete at the highest
They're
level.
going to lose some of these games.
Yeah, and they are, but just getting those 2 wins to start it off, Coronado was probably the weaker of those 2 teams, and they didn't have their full squad. We had some girls that were gone to band on Saturday, and so they didn't technically have their full unit on Saturday, so playing shorthanded with some of their players, they still came up with a W. And then at full strength on Tuesday, led by McKaylin, I think she kind of stepped up and said, hey, I kind of got to do a little bit more damage here tonight. But overall team win. But, man, when you put up 53 points, you show why you're a D1 commit for sure.
Well, and what I will say this, it's easy for critics to say, oh, well, you were just a one-man wrecking crew. And while things may have run through McKaylin on offense, I mean, it's obvious that's the case when you score 53 points.
Yeah.
However, it's the supporting cast around her that I think has taken a step forward this year, and is what's ultimately going to make this team better. You've got some of those youngsters from a year ago that now have a year of experience under their belt, like a Kendall Miller. She showed out against she may have played the best game she's ever played against Plainview last night.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have performances like that that are big for the Lady Lopes.
For sure. I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to watch them, and excited that we get to cover them this season time.
Yep. Well, we've been talking about the band. They They did compete in their area competition last Saturday, and it was a long day that started at 4 a.m. For Mr. Knight and the band. They traveled to Abilene. They had their first performance of the day around 11:30, something like that. They did advance to the finals, in top 10 advanced to the finals, and so they performed again late that night. Unfortunately, they do not crack the top 4 and get into the state competition. They finished 10th out of 23 bands at the area competition, but again, another great marching season for the Antelope Band.
Yeah, congrats to them, and that's some tough work there, Ty. We talk about the football team and they practice in and the things that they put in. Those band kids put in a lot of hours.
They do, absolutely.
They practice on Mondays. They have basically their dress rehearsal on Fridays, and then they also practice bright and early in the mornings. As well, and so they're putting in just amount of work. It may not be as physical, but man, if your kid's got to be there at 4 o'clock and then they
don't get home till that's a 24-hour day. When the night before they go to Olton to support the football team
right.
And I think that's what makes their job so impressive.
For sure. So congrats to them. Didn't finish the season probably how they wanted to, but it's still great to be top 10 in our region for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Chance, you can speak to it a little bit because I know you have a kiddo involved in it, but the junior high, they have their community performance for their one-act play. They've got their competition coming up this weekend, and I didn't get to see it, but I've heard rave reviews from the OAP on the junior high level.
Yeah, it was awesome. They had 2 performances. They performed on Sunday, kind of like the family show, and they performed for the school on Monday, and both performances were great. And it was crazy just to see the difference in the adjustments they made from Sunday to Monday. And then they had their final practice last night, and they'll go to competition this weekend in Floydada. And so they should, kind of estimating, I think their performance should be around 4:30 or 5. You can go and support, and anyone's welcome to go. The only difference between this show at competition and the prior 2 shows is there's no cameras, no flash, none of that stuff. They can't do any recording because it is for competition. And so, but they're going to have a long day, and I know that those kids, they've been practicing 2 hours for the last, 6 weeks or whatever it may be every night. So they've been working hard at it, and I know that the ladies they've been putting on the show have done a great job, and Lakin, she's had fun. They're doing a version of like Peter Pan and Wendy, and all those kids, Bo Holder, Kaylee Luera, all those kids have done a great job, and it was an awesome show that they put on for sure.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, sticking with the middle school, Chance, we've got a lot going on. We're mowing through things here on the program, but we had an awesome opportunity this week to sit down with our awesome admin team at the Abernathy Middle School. You've got Ollie Hart, your junior high principal, and then you've got Kara Nick, the longtime counselor there for the middle school. And we had a really good chat, Chance, with Ollie and Kara. Much like Joanna and Kaylee a few weeks ago, teamwork makes the dream work. They work together so well. You throw in their hot man, Cass Fortune, and that is quote, both of them saying that, adding in energy down there as the associate principal. You'll hear them talk a little bit about that. And Chance, I think the biggest thing, and we're not going to steal their thunder, but the biggest thing that stuck out to me on what they were talking about the middle school, obviously grades, tests, academics, those things have to be important.
For sure.
Those are a big reason you're there. But they're so focused on just creating a well-rounded individual that can go into our world and make a difference and treat people how you're supposed to treat people.
Treat people how you're supposed to treat people, and then just teaching them responsibility and understanding that the world is bigger than themselves. And I think at the junior high level, that's very important for them to start to understand. And like I said, don't want to steal some of their thunder, but just excited about some of the programs that they put in place and some of the things that they're doing to kind of encourage and motivate those kids to kind of be well-rounded and just be excited about opportunities that can come up, and seeing things that are not just most middle schoolers wouldn't experience or even talk about. So I'm excited to for them to highlight some of those things, Ty.
So without further ado, here is Miss Hart and Miss Nick as they talk all things junior high. And here on Outside the Box, joined by 2 awesome members of our admin team here at the Abernathy Middle School, Kara Nick and Ollie Hart. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. Just talking all things junior high, all things middle school. You guys have some exciting things going on here at this campus. And so, for starters, can you just talk about, we're getting close to being a semester deep into the school year. Can you just talk about some of the things you're excited about, some of the things maybe you're most proud of as far as middle school is concerned so far this school year?
Absolutely. So we really are most proud of what's happening in our classrooms right now. Our teachers are working very hard. Our students are working very hard. Our theme this year is Elevate. And so really that's a two-part theme. One of them is how can we be a little bit better each day? And that's staff and students. And so we talk to our students a lot about growth and how can you grow whatever level you are at, how can you get a little bit better academically? And sometimes that doesn't show academically. It may not show in a test score. It may not show in a classroom average, but maybe it's showing with responsibility. Maturity is a big thing in middle school. And so that's what we really want our kids to be able to do. And we're working with staff on that really as well right now. We're really deep into teacher observations. And so we have conversations with teachers as well as how can you grow professionally. The other part of our Elevate theme is how can you lift others up? And so that's a big thing that we try to teach in middle school is how can you support your peers and how can you be a better friend and all of those things. And so we had a great example of that this year in our 6th grade boys PE class. We had a student learning to catch a football. And so we take that for granted, but he was really working at it. And when he finally achieved that goal, our 6th grade boys they went wild.
That's awesome.
And we're so excited for him. And so that was a perfect example of them living out our theme to elevate others.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Obviously, a strong leadership team, admin team is important in making a campus run, making a campus successful. Obviously, you guys, among some others here at the middle school, are a part of that admin team. Can you just kind of speak to how you guys work together and gel together well here at the middle school campus?
Sure. Well, I think we have a great admin team. So Kara Nick is our counselor. She does a great job with kids in the middle school. And so as they get to this age, they're really starting to live life and see the life around them. And so sometimes that can be hard and challenging. And so I feel like Kara does a great job with guiding them through it. Yet like kind of setting them free to make their own decisions all at the same time. And we've added Coach Fortune in the last few years. He brings a lot of energy and excitement to our campus. And so if we need anything exciting, Coach Fortune is our guy. And so he does a great job motivating kids. We're doing a big push right now for missing assignments. And so he helps us out with that as well. And then he brings in an administrator background as well. And so he can help in the classroom and with those observations and things. And so really, I think we all work together as an admin team because we all have the same goal. And so our goal here as an admin team is to support staff and support kids. And so I think that's really why we work so well together. I'll let Kara kind of branch on that.
Yeah, I just want to brag on them. And Coach Fortune is like our hype man. We always say
everybody needs that.
Yeah, if we need an announcement, we're like Coach Fortune is our guy at pep rallies, but he's great too at making those connections with the kids. And Miss Hart, she's amazing. The communication, the support that we all feel from her. If we have a question or a concern, we go to her. We know something is, she's going to look into it. She's going to guide us and help us through that. So,
Awesome. So obviously, Ms. Hart, we're preparing for a little bit of a change come the spring semester that everybody, I think, is excited about. Some may be apprehensive about, but going into the 4-day school week, kind of giving that a trial run here at all of our campuses. Could you just talk a little bit about how you guys are preparing for that, first of all, and then what kind of impact you think it'll ultimately have on your campus?
Sure. So really we started in our prep days before the classroom instruction started. So early August, our teachers started preparing what we call it in the educational world is their year at a glance. So how do we need to change our curriculum map to make it fit now where we have more instructional days in the fall than the spring. So it's not an even split anymore. So we had to shift some units to the fall that would have typically been taught later. And so we did a check-in at 9 weeks, like how are we doing? Are we still on target? And so we'll do that again in December. How are we doing? Because it really shifted our teaching to, like I said, more content in the fall, less in the spring. As far as what it's going to look like for our kids and our staff, I'm hopeful. I really am. This fall has been it's felt different. It really has. We've typically had more breaks than we've had to this point. We had typically some Fridays or Mondays off that now are shifted in the spring. And so I'm hopeful those days when we get them back will be refreshing and relaxing for kids and staff. That was one of the thoughts in this adoption. And so I really hope that it will go well as far as just a refreshment for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Miss Nick, I know you guys have kind of installed a community service program here at the middle school that you guys are excited about, the students are excited about. Can you just talk a little bit about what that is and kind of what that looks like here at the middle school campus?
Sure. So last year we implemented a school-wide community service where we wanted every student to have the opportunity to go and volunteer and provide community service. Several years ago when we did Meals on Wheels in Abernathy, we would take like small groups of like 7, and the kids loved it. I mean, there was a long list wanting to do it, so we knew it was something kids were willing to do. And I did an internship with Lubbock Impact 2 or 3 summers ago and didn't have any knowledge of them prior to that, and just saw all that they did with the community, how they helped, and they run mostly on volunteers. And so got to know the director and was like, hey, would you like to have some groups of middle schoolers come and volunteer? She was all for it. So we, once a month, we go the first Tuesday of every month, and we take about 20 students, and we go, and that's the day that they divide us into 3 groups. One group usually helps prep the meal for the next day. They do a big family meal on Wednesdays. One group like helps with the clothes closet and sorts clothes. And then one group we set up and decorate tables for their senior luncheon. And then whatever else they need. They move boxes, we pick weeds, we pick up trash, whatever they want. And the kids they love it. They
That's
are
awesome.
energetic. They're very eager to help. We always get tons of compliments when we go from people that are there, the other volunteers, about how helpful and polite our kids are or not. And it just gives them an opportunity. Our goal is to kind of hopefully plant a seed so that they continue to want to help others and to volunteer as they become an adult and then with their own families, and just see how kind of what all the things we have to be thankful for, because there's quite a bit of things that people need help with, and just see that it's okay if you need help and if you want to help other people, that works out good.
No, so. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's exciting. I love how obviously academics are important. The school aspect of things are important, but yet you're creating good people and people that want to go out and be a positive part of the community. So I think that's great. Last but certainly not least, obviously we like to ask this question to a lot of the people we talk to. Abernathy is a special place. It's a special district. It's a special community. Can you talk a little bit about what makes it a special place to work and live?
Absolutely. So when I moved to Abernathy, honestly, it was by location. My husband needed to live in the county. And so that's how we chose Abernathy. I'm not born and raised here like many of the people are, but we have just fallen in love with the community. And I've raised my kids here from kindergarten up and wouldn't have had it any other way. And so I feel like I'm fully invested in our school system and in our community, and have loved it. As far as what makes it special is really just the support system that our community and school system involves. Our families recently had just a family illness that shook us up just quite a bit, and I've just felt so lifted up by other people. They've taken us in, checked on us, checked on my kids, brought meals, like all kinds of things that make you feel like you're supported. And so that's what our community and our school system does. And so I feel like that's what our staff does as well, is we have kids, like I mentioned earlier, that are just living life. And so we really try to support those kids, just like you mentioned, help them become a better person. It's not just about the grades or just about, the test scores at the end of the day, but just supporting each other as people.
Awesome.
Well, I grew up here, and so I've always loved Abernathy. When we moved off, I always knew I wanted to come back, and I'm so thankful that 2 of my kids got to graduate from here as well. And just like Ollie said, just the support of the community, and like when you're going to the grocery store or to the different activities, seeing all the kids, and because our staff and feel like we're all really good about building relationships with our kids. So when we see them out, it's so fun to get to watch them as well. and just the support from the community for the school, and then just like you said, as a whole. So I feel like we have our school community and our community supporting us.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for taking a few minutes with us today, and we're excited about all the things going on at the middle school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome back here to Outside the Box. Again, just a great interview with Ollie Hart and Kara Nick. So thankful that they took time out of their busy day. They had a lot going on whenever we were down there, Chance, getting people to where they needed to go. Obviously, they talked a lot about the community service program that Miss Nick has put in. Super excited about that. I think that's a really neat thing that kind of plays into what we were talking about before the interview. Just really teaching these kids to value serving others and loving others. And I have a little bit of experience. I have done some volunteer work at Lubbock Impact as well. And it's a great organization. They do great things for the Lubbock community, and it's a great place for our students to go and just see the importance of being a servant in your community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something else, Ty, that I enjoyed visiting with them about is just the fact that they understand. They have curriculum. They have the things. They have to have test scores. But they understand that these are still young adults, and they want to make sure that they understand that, yes, you may want to make 100, but if you make a 70, that's okay. It's about making sure that you're committing your time, you're doing your best, you're doing all these things, and also you're not getting overwhelmed. It was just good to hear their perspective on things and to know that our young middle school and junior high kids are being well taken care of and just kind of like loved on. And the main thing is it's about those kiddos and making them into good human beings that are going to be a part of our community for sure. Ty.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of a couple of those students we were able to catch up with as well, Chance, as I was not even familiar. You might have been because your child was involved in it.
Yep.
I don't have a kiddo in the middle school yet, but I was not even familiar with, and that's what I love about this program, and that's what I love about what we're doing. I was not familiar with the community service program that was going on in the junior high. And whenever I reached out to Miss Hart and whatnot, she asked if we could highlight this program because it was something that they were excited about. And I said, absolutely. That is 100% why we're doing what we're doing. But we were able to catch up with, and it was actually their idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. They wanted to talk to a couple of the students that participate in this program. I think they take about 20 students each week to Lubbock Impact once a week. And so we caught up with Slade and Lakin, your daughter Lakin.
She was there. She was very surprised she was doing an interview because she wasn't aware either. And like you said, neither were we. And they pulled them aside and were like, hey, here's the two. And we pulled them in, and they were just riveting, Ty. They were excited about the interviews.
As riveting as you could imagine middle school students being. So we've got a quick chat with them just about the impact that this program has had on them. So let's hear from Slade and Lakin right quick.
All right, Lakin and Slade, thank y'all for joining us here on Outside the Box. I know you are part of the community service program here at Abernathy Middle School. We just kind of wanted to highlight what it means to students and how y'all enjoy being a part of that program. So what's y'all's favorite part of the community service program?
My favorite part was probably hearing about how they feed the people who can't buy food for themselves.
That's cool.
My favorite part was definitely getting to go out there and help set up and feed the families that go to eat at the church.
I gotcha. So I know y'all both been. What are the two different things? Like, what did you do, Slade, whenever you went to volunteer?
I helped set up the tables that they ate at, and I helped sort through clothes.
Nice. Lakin, what about you?
I got to put tags on clothes and sort food.
I gotcha. And so I know that's a big deal. You go, and I'm sure both of y'all kind of talked about the instance of what you see and how you're able to help. So what's something that impact on that program has kind of shown y'all just about how you can be a part of community and what it means to kind of volunteer and do those type of things?
I just like seeing how they help people.
It's definitely made me more open to helping others whenever I see that they need help or something, and I enjoy helping.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for talking about the community service program. I know Miss Nick and the rest of the admin staff here is excited about it, so I'm glad that you are a part of that.
All right.
Thanks to Slade and Lakin for taking a few minutes with us as well. As you could tell, they were thrilled.
Yeah.
They were thrilled to do it.
Impromptu interview.
But I love the fact that they were willing to. Neither one of them balked at it at all.
No.
They both were happy to talk about the impact that this community service program has had on them, and you could just tell. I mean, their answers were short and to the point, but they're learning to value what it means to serve your neighbor,
For
and
sure.
and that's the whole point.
That's the whole point of the program, and I think that no prep, not even aware that they're going to have to answer questions, and I think the biggest thing, and Lakin didn't talk about it a lot, but I think it's the impact of knowing like there is people out there that is their career field that they go into, number one, but that it takes things like Lubbock Impact, anyway, things that are out there creating these environments for people to help others that are in need, and it's simple like. Slade talked about, we had to set up tables, we had to prepare some food, we had to sort through clothes. It's not riveting things that they were doing, but the fact that they're like, yeah, we want to do that. We want to be a part of that. And it's one of those things to where they have the excitement to want to go do that and continue to go do that. And so I just love that program. I'm excited for them. I hope they continue to do it. And I think it's great things that, Kara and Ollie are doing, and their hype man Cash Fortune is there with them as well.
There you go. They said when they need excitement, they call on Cash. But let's take one more break, and we will come back and wrap things up here on Outside the Box and talk a little bit about the post-bold gold antelopes coming up on Friday night. Stick with us. If you are needing your heating or air conditioning unit serviced, look no further than JC Refrigeration in Lubbock. We have been serving West Texas with all of their HVAC needs for many years and look forward to serving you. When you use JC Refrigeration, you know you'll be getting honest and reliable service from professionals that you can trust. Give us a call today at 744-9855. JC Refrigeration proudly supports the Antelopes and Lady Lopes.
At Nutrien Ag Solutions, we are proud to be known as the ag retailer of the future and are committed to helping growers meet their full potential. We consistently provide the best performing chemical, fertilizer, and seed products, financing programs, and second-to-none technology. With 6 locations nearby, Nutrien Ag Solutions is ready to serve you with all of your agricultural needs. David Carver and his team are thankful for the customers who continue to trust Nutrien with their business. We are wishing the Antelopes and Lady Lopes an incredible and blessed year.
And welcome back for the final time here inside Outside the Box as the Abernathy Antelopes get ready for their senior night matchup with the post-bold gold Antelopes. It's always a big one when the Bold Gold and Abernathy hook up chance, but a little bit extra this season as the Abernathy Antelopes and Post Antelopes meeting with the winner being the outright district champion. These two teams very familiar with one another as they first met back in 1947, and Abernathy holds the overall edge in the series 21-18. And they've won 11 of the last 20 meetings. But, Chance, this is really a pretty even series when you look at Abernathy and Post over the years.
For sure, and you kind of said it, it means more on Friday for the district title and that gold ball. It's the 40th overall meeting of these two teams, but it's not one of those things where it's an unfamiliar foe that you're facing, Ty. The Lopes, they've met each other basically every season since 2004, so almost 20 years. The only gap they had was in 10 and 11 when they were in a separate district. But essentially they made up for that because they played 2 times in 2016. And if we all remember the 2016 season, Bryson Daly's freshman year, where they just kept finding ways to win. They started the season in 2016 with the loss to 21
zip, yep.
to Post.
I remember
and then
that.
You go to advance in the playoffs, and guess who you play? Post. And what's it come down to? It's tied 21-21, and
field goal.
Your freshman kicker and quarterback comes out there and kicks the field goal, and you win that game. And so familiar foe, but it's one of those things to where they're undefeated this season, but they have kind of been in a rut. They were picked to finish at the bottom of the district tie, and that's because they go back to the state championship in 2019 and 2020. Coach leaves, and then they have 3 seasons to where they win a total of 8 games. They've won 9 games this year. That's more games than they've won in their past 3 seasons combined. They finished 5-7, 2-7, and then 1-8. And so they're kind of having a resurgent year. And so they're excited that the post bold gold fan base is definitely excited. So when they come in here 9-0 for that district championship, it's going to be rocking on Friday night.
Well, and Chance, I think the impressive thing about Post, they're not just winning. For the most part, they're winning big.
Yeah, they dominated.
As they're outscoring their opponents on average 49-15 for the season. I don't care who used 50 points a game on average through 9 weeks. That is impressive. They do rely on a very talented and very strong backfield and rushing attack. As you've got Ian Vergara leading the way for the Bold Gold, 2,800 rushing yards,
about 30 touchdowns.
About 30 touchdowns. I think it was 28 or something like that. Last time I looked. He's by far the top rusher in the Lubbock area. Statistically, is the only one, and really Rolando's not even really that close to him.
Yeah, and he's number 2.
And he's number 2.
I think he has about 30 more carries and about 300 more yards and a train load more touchdowns. And that's not to say anything bad about Rolando. It's
no,
just
not at
showing
all.
that their offense heavily runs through Ian, and then they have Javante Bell, who's kind of a receiver / flanker back. He's going to catch a lot of balls, but also they're going to hand the ball off to him. They get the ball to him in a lot of different ways. He's kind of more of a speedster. But Vergara, he's fast, but he's definitely going to be more of the up the middle type runs with him. So
well, you have those two guys, Chance, and again, I know it's Florida, but in that 73-3 win, you had both Bell and Vergara both rush for over 200 yards. I don't care who you're playing. That's an impressive performance, absolutely. And while they run the ball, there have been a couple of times this year. So I go back to a game they played, one of their biggest rivalry games in their history, against Slayton back early in the season, Chance, against a good Slayton team, a much improved Slayton team. The Slayton defense, they 100% sold out to stop Vergara.
Yeah,
and they did. Or maybe not stopped him, but they contained him. Mm-hmm. And so that force Post to go to the air, and they've got a quarterback in Landon Garcia and a couple of receivers in Keandre Jefferson and Sean Ramos. Really what won Post that ball game was 2 50-plus yard touchdown passes by Garcia to those two receivers in that game. And so the capability of them throwing the ball is there. You've got to stop the run, but you can't just give up on defending the pass.
You definitely can, and they've showed, kind of like us, we've had a lot of, you have three shutouts in a row, really, really dominant wins, and then you have your 3 games that you had to come back and essentially win. And Post has had those ones. The one against Slayton, they had another win against Four Sands, which Four Sands, they're kind of a hard team to read. Like we talked about them earlier in District 3. They may finish 4th in that district, but they played Post in a game where it was 32-30. And then obviously they had a very similar game to New Home as we did, except, New Home kind of had them a little more dead in the water, and was ahead, and Post rallied back and was able to win that game. It was some mistakes by New Home, but also Post still did what they needed to do to win, and that's the kind of team that you're going to face. They're pretty resilient. They're pretty disciplined overall. I know their offensive line and defensive line are pretty disciplined, but I think that things that we're going to see that may work in our favor is the weather. The weather's going to be a key one. It may not be as wet and rainy as we're thinking it's going to be, but it's going to be cool. And so that's something that you have the weather in your favor, and then also you're playing at home. Hopefully you have that home crowd, and just it's a lot more comfortable. Post isn't far, but on a bus, it ain't a short ride.
Right.
And I think that, when you look at keys, you talked about it earlier, Ty. You can't probably stop Ian Vergara, but you're going to have to contain him for sure.
I mean, I think if you hold Vergara to 125 yards rushing, that's probably a win.
Yeah, for sure. It probably is. But as you said, we can't get into an instance where we're so focused on the run that they kind of go over the top and start opening things up passing-wise, and that's kind of where the weather is going to come into play on some of that. is if it's wet and slick, they're probably not going to look to throw the ball around a lot. But also, you have to remember their quarterback's pretty good. He is kind of a dual threat. He'll run the ball. He's not going to be as much of a dual threat as some of the other quarterbacks in our area, but he's capable of running the ball. And I think, Ty, if you contain him, if we kind of don't turn the ball over and have some big turnovers similar to how we did against Olton, I think those two things are going to go a long way. And we've talked about it, I don't know how many weeks, Ty.
One of these days, it's going to matter one way or the other, and you're going to have to convert the point after. And that's kind of something just you don't really think about a whole lot, and it just kind of is an afterthought, especially when you're beating teams 68-7 and 39-0 and things like that. They really don't matter. But in a close game, if you've got a 1, 2, 3 point ball game, if you don't make those PATs, that could cost you the ball game. And so I don't know if the answer is just finding a way to consistently kick the PAT, or if it's to line up and go for 2. I don't get paid to make those calls, but you're going to have to find a way to convert those.
For sure. And we saw a little bit more consistency on Friday. But, the one game that I go back to that 1 point mattered.
It was in our favor because we were 7 of 7.
We were 7 of 7, and you have Maverick walk up there and knock one through. No big deal. But that could have easily ended in a tie ball game or gone into overtime or whatever it may be. But that was one of those things that it's going to matter now that it's crunch time going into the playoffs. That it seems silly, like we say, it seems silly, but ask against Farwell, they definitely would like to have had that point back, and you have some other games already this season have been decided by that 2 or 1 points.
And Chance, I think, and I know he's one of the players to watch every week, but I really think an X factor in this ball game is your sophomore quarterback, Jagger Wiley. Obviously, he's your field general, but I think Abernathy is going to have to get some production through the air from him. And obviously the receivers are half of that equation. And you've got some great skill guys that you can toss it out to. But I think Wiley needs a big game if Abernathy wants to be successful.
Yeah, he's going to have a big game, especially if they're keying on Rolando. And we saw him do that this past week. He had, those 13 incompletions. But I would say probably out of those 13, half of those were maybe not on him. Mm-hmm. And that's not saying anything about the receivers, but there were some tip balls, some ones that hit him in the hand, some ones that kind of snuck up on him, that they may not have been perfect passes, but if they hit you in your hands or in your chest, you got to come down with those, especially in a game against Post that they're not going to let too many times. It's probably going to be a lot of either back and forth. If it's wet, we're going to get controlling the clock, controlling the possession battle. And also we have to make sure that we don't get into an instance, Ty, of where we're playing from behind. You can't do that against a team like Post.
Post is more equipped to play from behind than we are, probably.
Sure. Yep. And I think that's a big play factor. Mm-hmm. And, we saw that against New Deal, which it was New Deal, but we saw that where they put up 21 points. Hey, we did the same thing, but, they did it very quickly, and that's not something that you don't want to get in a back-and-forth game for sure, by any means. So.
We both have made our picks on this game, Chance, and I'll preface this by saying this is one of those matchups that I don't know that any result would necessarily surprise me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Abernathy comes out and if they're dominant. I wouldn't be surprised if Post comes out and if they're dominant. I suspect a close game if I'm having to pick. I think it'll be a close game one way or the other. And I'm going to go with my heart and maybe not my head in this one, as I know I picked Post to win the district to start the season, and that still may happen. But my heart says 33-28, Abernathy with the win on Friday.
You got to go with the Lopes, Ty. You just got to do it.
There you go.
I would agree with you. I think I can see it going both ways. And to the likes of, Ty, when I was doing my pick, I really – and you're going to laugh because it's my thing. We have 3 shutouts in a row. I told you last week, I said, Ty, I would love for Post to come in here and us just to dominate them and get a shutout. Realistically, I don't see that happening just because of the firepower that they have on offense, and they're a well-coached, well-rounded team. But I do think that if we play at the level that we can play a complete game, I mean, there's been instances where, against Littlefield, against where you come out and you just score 21 points, your defense pitches a shutout, and then after halftime we kind of have a lull. we didn't have that the past 3 weeks. Was our competition as high? No, it wasn't. But at the same time, you're capable of doing it. And if we play a complete game, you probably could. I see it more of them getting some points on the board as well. Pick pretty similar to yours. I think Abernathy's going to put about 32 up and Post maybe put up 3 touchdowns, 21. So I have the Lopes winning, the Abernathy Antelopes. Let me say that to preference it. And I wish I had my antelope mascot head that I could put on, but you wouldn't know, but it would have that A on it. And I think that the home field advantage and the weather are going to be the two big things. And some of our veteran leadership is going to step up. I think you're going to have big plays from, a Hillis, a Curry, a Carver, and probably get some turnovers on defense that Post is going to kind of not be able to come back from.
Yeah. And I will say this, Chance. I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. If Abernathy pitches their 4th consecutive shutout,
there we go.
You got a Kegel steak meal on me.
There we go. That's what I like.
Hold me to it. If Abernathy pitches a shutout.
Hey,
so,
I think it'll be worth it if we get 4 shutouts in a row.
Hey, I'll go to Kegels. Sign me up for that. That's it for this episode of Outside the Box. As next week, we're going to talk all things football. You've got the playoffs to talk about. You've got hopefully a district championship to talk about. We're going to recognize some seniors after playing their last regular season game. Hopefully get some cross-country seniors and different people recognized as well. We'll continue our look around AISD. A lot on the program coming up next Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to highlight. It feels like we're transitioning, and it feels like, football's kind of coming. You don't want it to be coming in. Hopefully we have 3 or 4 more weeks of it, but that just means round ball time starting, junior high's playing basketball as well. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening, so we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yep,
sure, Ty.
absolutely. So until Friday night at 6:45, we'll have the pregame prior to the Antelopes for a district championship at Antelope Field
there you go.
in Abernathy, Texas. We'll say good night.
God bless.
And go Lopes.